Hafa and good afternoon. Thank you everyone for being here. The Committee on Education, Air Transportation, and Statistics Research and Planning will now convene this informational briefing. Today is December 31st, 2019, and it is currently 3:05 in the afternoon. For the record, in accordance with the Open Government Law, public notices were sent out via email to all senators, stakeholders, and all main media broadcasting outlets on Friday, December 20, 2019, and the second notice on Thursday, December 26. Notice of today's informational briefing was also available on the Guam Legislature's website. On today's agenda, we have the status of vendor payments for Guahan Academy Charter School, the updates on Public Law 35-29, 35-30, and 35-36, and its impacts. I would like to do, this is a little bit unorthodox the way we're running this. Usually I'm up on the, the bench. And so, but I wanted this to be a very, a collaborative meeting, a collaborative hearing, so we can really address the problems and see if we can move forward, or what we need to do to move forward to find the solution. And if it's a change in policy that we need to do, then that is what I'm doing here. That is my job that I will implement. But at this time, we also had some of the investors for some of the charter schools who'd like to give a testimony. So before I call our government agencies and the board, the charter council, and the board of trustees, I'd like to call the investors first to go ahead and give testimony towards the situation that they face today. So if you can just please come forward, whoever would like to give comments, and then you can state your name for the record, and perhaps the company you represent. You can come up, sit up here, so we can hear it on the record, and then and then you turn on the mic. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm the Samjin Wadako, representative in Guam, the branch office. So Samjin was built a unit of the classroom in the Guam Academy Charter School, 2016, November 25th, we turn over to them. And then they pay 2017, around May through July, altogether $100,000. The remaining, there is still no payment. So I would like to know why they're using the A unit of classroom in the kindergarten. That's as I well know. So I would like to know why really no pay to until now. Yes, I mean.
Okay, thank you very much for your testimony, sir. Is there anyone else that would like to give testimony? No? Yes? Okay. Go ahead, please, and have a seat here and state your name for the record.
Hi, nobody wants to hear from the lawyers, but our understanding is that the legislature authorized DOA to make a payment to U1, which is owed $1.3 million, not counting interest and attorney's fees. And somehow, DOA hasn't authorized it yet. Does that summarize the facts? Thank you.
So yes, that's what we're here to understand. What process is impeding the payment? If it's a policy matter, if the Attorney General says that we need to address the change in policy to perhaps the semantics of the wording that we placed legally on the public law. But from my understanding, with our review, with our legal review, that is the intent and it should have been met.
Okay. Yeah, the Department of Administration has taken the position that this was should have been subject to the procurement code, but even Jackie Terlahi doesn't believe that GACS is a public agency, and so she doesn't think it should be under the procurement code anyway. So
Right.
we think somebody needs to take some steps to get the release of the funds.
And that's true that GACS is a nonprofit organization, and so that's why we have members of the Charter Council here, so that we can also, they're really the ones that are the gateway between the government and the nonprofit organization charter schools. So that's why they're present today, to also assist us in trying to figure out what we need to do to ensure payment.
Okay.
And we'd like it to be on record because, we've been hearing different sides of the story. And so I think that now that if we can have something concrete, we can move forward with something concrete.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So, Mr. Burns and Mr. Kenga, and if any of the members of the Board of Trustees would like to move forward, we do have several questions. We do want to thank GACS for their transparency and their full disclosure of information that is needed to understand the dynamics of what is going on here today. Thank you, Ms. Ovalis.
Good afternoon and holiday wishes to everyone. But thank you, Senators, for inviting us on this informational hearing. I'm going to start this, Senator Shelton and Vice Chair, Senator, Teresa's not here. Oh, sorry, my apologies. Marilyn, I stand corrected. But my name is Faye Valencia Ovalis, and I am the chairwoman of the Board of Trustees of the Gohan Academy Charter School. In response to the focus of this informational hearing, GACS is pleased to present a snapshot of paid vendors and pending vendor payments. GACS has always been mindful that these payments were made possible by a significant legislation in your Bill 10635. And Vice Speaker Nelson, we are truly thankful that you have Public Law 3529 signed by Governor Liu, which was signed in July 19, 2019. Truly grateful. Thank you and God bless. Immediately thereafter, commencing on July 30th, 2019, the Board of Trustees of the Gohan Academy Charter School embarked in one, ratifying certain vendor contracts as required under the 9106 GAR, Chapter 9 of the Procurement Law. A copy is here attached. Number two, processing prior year obligation allotment requests, all guided by they're all shaded in light green, as illustrated below. The ledger demonstrates that out of 23 vendors' payment allotment requests processed under the new law, 8 remains pending. We are available to respond to any questions or concerns by the committee. We also want to issue, and the Speaker and the Senators of the 35th Goan Legislature, a safe, peaceful, and a blessed New Year. Ndagkulan sa Diyos maasi.
Thank you, Ms. Ovalis. Is there anyone else would like to give testimony? I'd like to thank the Vice Chair of Education, Senator Shelton, for being here. Sorry. Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to give testimony? I'll just go right into the questions then. Okay. So some of the challenges we have historically was ensuring a mechanism to pay the charter school vendors. And what we did within the budget appropriation is to give them the authority to pay prior year obligations, but specifically for temporary structures, because we didn't want to give them an overarching authority to pay, to allow them to build a whole school on the government's dime, right? That's what Guam Department of Education is for. And so, in that sense, really the language now I'm understanding, GACS was supposed to present some referendum to Department of Administration validating that the structures that are there are indeed temporary. And on, let me see, in one of the letters, Mr. Byrne wrote, where's that blue paper? Oh, there we go. Mr. Byrne wrote, responded to GACS, and so in this letter, it's dated November 19, 2019, from Department of Administration, regarding Guahan Academy Charter School allotment releases. So there were 3 allotment releases that have yet to be authorized, which is an allotment for Anthony Torres, which is at the amount of $17,272, as well as Bank of Guam at $169,166, and Yuan Lu Dixel at $243,000. And in this letter, it states, please refer to the attached Department of Administration letters dated August 27, 2019. DOA has not received the requested information. DOA has not asserted that these payments should not be made because they are prior year obligation, but does not agree that they should be paid regardless of the provisions of subsection 12116 Delta, simply because they represent prior year obligations. Subsequently, requested similar payments are similarly held in suspense pending confirmation. Your letter further states that 17 GCA subsection 12119 authorizes DOA to pay the allotment requests of charter schools regardless of the legality of the intended purpose. 5 GCA subsection 22203. Duties of director. DOA states in pertinent part, the director shall show that all applicable legal provisions have been complied with. Accordingly, your letter with this response will be referred to the Attorney General in order that he may formulate a legal opinion on legal issues surrounding the release of allotments to charter schools. A copy of this letter will also be provided to the Guam Academy Charter School Council. And so this letter is dated November 19, 2019. So perhaps, Mr. Burns, you can just explain to us what really is the issue. Did you send the letter to the AG?
Yes, Vice Speaker, a copy of this letter was sent to the AG.
And can you just state your name for the record?
Edward Byrne, Department of Administration.
Thank you. And can you just explain to us what is really the, what's the AG's recommendations? What is the impact on the procurement law because this is an NPO? How do we ensure that prior year obligations are really paid for? I think that's...
Yes, and if I may take a step back
Okay,
to the previous budget year where all requests for allotment to the charter schools were initially referred to the Department of Education, who reviewed them, and in some cases they opined that they were an appropriate payment to make, and in other cases they opined that procurement procedures were not complied with. In the fiscal 19 budget, as you I think said in your introduction, there was a change to the law that did 2 things. It provided that the payments requests would be made directly to the Department of Administration, and they would form a view upon the appropriateness of the claim. And it also provided for prior year obligations to be paid out of current year allotments where appropriate. The effect of all that was that we at Department of Administration began to receive requests directly from the charter school as was intended, And as far as the majority of these requests, we immediately paid them. Some of these were prior year obligations, and where there was no other issue, these prior year obligations were paid. So what we're left with is a few invoices, other than the ones that we're currently receiving, which I'm sure are being processed, and we do process them within 10 days. Right? We've got it's 6 invoices which we haven't paid because we are concerned that they contravene the language of 17 GCA 12116D, which is the issue with the construction that you made reference to in your introductory remarks. So I want to be clear that that really is the only issue that is preventing us from making these payments. We at DOA have invited the charter school to confirm that these costs, or the costs that are represented by these invoices, do not contravene the provisions of that particular section of the law. And we have not received that confirmation. GACS attorney wrote a letter to which the letter from which you quoted is a response, which purported to say that it didn't matter about the other provisions of the law. The only thing that mattered was the new provision in the budget, which permitted prior year obligations to be paid. Unfortunately, as you know, the budget law is not included in the annotated code, but that provision is. So I was left with a legal quandary as to what to do, and that's why we referred it to the Attorney General, but we have not yet had a response from the Attorney General as to the question that was asked.
Can you please let us know, for the record, what are the 6 invoices that are pending the payment and the dates? With the amounts, please, because you said 6 invoices not paid?
Yes. What would you like me to read out?
Well, you said 6, right? So read out the 6 that have not been.
What information regarding the invoices would you like me to read out?
To whom it's owed, the cost, and the dates of when it was submitted, perhaps?
I can't tell you the dates, but I can tell you the dates that we received them. Right? On 8/7/2019, there is a invoice from Falcon Fire Protection, LLC, which I assume has to do with the alarm system, for $13,320. On 8/21, there's a request from WB Flores and Associates, who I think are a project management company, for $56,375. On 8/21, there was a request from MSA Logistics, which I think were shipping costs for construction materials, of $9,259.30. On 8/21, there's an invoice from the carpet store, which is the installation of carpet and purchase of carpet, for $34,293.60. On 8/7, there was an invoice for $108,000 from Rex International for $108,000. On 8/7, there was an invoice from U1 Luxidel for $267,824.01. And in addition to that, there was a previously claimed payment, which is a loan payment to Bank of Guam for $169,166.52. The total of all these is $658,238.43.
In a letter dated November 14, 2019 from Jacqueline Taitano-Terlahi, she also included an additional to you one, $24,824 on September 30th, 2019. And then Attorney Torres, September 30, 2019, for the amount of $17,272. That one specifically states that it's awaiting EFT release.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, Vice Speaker. That was meaning it was in our process of being paid and was subsequent. The 17,000 was subsequently paid.
Okay, thank you. So really, the challenges now that we face is addressing 17 GCA. Is there any proof that there has been compliance with 17 GCA for these specific contracts that you initiated with the vendors?
We have responded to the letter of Mr. Byrne explaining what these structures were all about. It's our letter dated September 5, 2019, on all of these issues referring to the GCA, received by their office on September 5 as well. I need to go back to that letter that supposedly had been sent to the AG, because this has been more than a month. And that letter there was no letter to the AG, but a letter to our attorney advising her that that matter would be given to the AG. We have not seen that, therefore, there is no rendition from the AG's office as to whether we have done the proper procurement or not. I might like to call also the attention of the legislature and your committee, Madam Chair, that there is an ultimate process that all of the GSA and all of Guam will have to do in case of procurement of this issue. There is the process and the section of the law that allows the Board of Trustees, which is your ultimate fiduciary in handling the finances of GACS, on a ratification process. And that's all been done through a board resolution, and ratification comes to DOA's office, then it has to be further sent to the AGs again for a further ratification of the action of the board. We have one instance by then Deputy Director of the same incidents where they have questioned the action of the Board of Trustees. And the AG have rendered opinion that the process that we have done in the procurement on a board resolution and a ratification process thereafter holds well in validating that particular procurement. It seems that through all this process, there's always a question of the law that says we cannot construct. And we have given all the specs from our engineers that says these are temporary structures that would divide classrooms after classroom and an old building down at revenue and taxation. If I would have to refresh everybody's memory, everybody knows how the building looks like. We have to divide the classrooms at that time. So this infrastructure, all of these dividers were ordered. And this is what held the building and divided the classroom. We never built it from ground up. These were all certified by our engineers, the materials and what have you that were used to divide the classroom. To this day, we are still being told that we did construction. So I think it will be a wise engineer who already has been rendered opinion on this as to what materials were used for just dividing the classrooms and not really constructing from ground up. It's just been the issue from all of this pending ratification. Madam Chair, we want to pay our vendors and get this off our back and be in good standing with everybody. But again, that always surfaces up, so we don't know anymore. And again, we're waiting for an AG opinion that we never got or was never sent. So I have no idea anymore where GAC what we should be able to do to be able to handle or take care of our vendor. Your law had practically took care of some of our old obligations. Out of 23, 8 is all pending, and all of it is supposed to be a construction-related work. So we did not construct. We basically provided dividers for the classroom to accommodate all our students. And our engineers have attested to that. I'm sorry.
Which is temporary. That is only temporary, Senator. There was no building that is permanent there. If anybody goes over there and check, the only thing that's there is the ones that the divider to divide the building up to prepare us to come up with our classrooms for the students. And that is all. There's nothing there that's permanent. Even the plan that we requested to go and do that, they did put down is temporary building. Nothing there says construction of anything, but just to modify it to help us out with dividing it up to provide the classroom that is needed for our students.
And well described, Madam Chair, on the IFB that we issued out to the public. It simply says the project is to install and assemble modular classrooms in the warehouse space, upgrade the fire protection and fire alarm, et cetera, et cetera. But it's simply identifying the material that needs to be used to divide the classrooms of that warehouse. So it clearly stated in our IFB on how those materials should come in.
So, Director Byrne, if the ratification process is a question of whether these buildings are temporary or permanent, why is DOA still awaiting validation for Falcon Fire, the carpet store, WB Florist? You mentioned 6 invoices, and it says that they're awaiting DOA validation. So it seems like the issue here is really the interpretation, right, of the law. And so the laws, and so really, the question is, if the issue really is that these buildings are temporary or if they're permanent, there are 3 other vendors that don't deal with construction of buildings, like Falcon Fire, I don't know, MSC Logistics, the carpet store, and maybe WB Flores is the 4th. So is there a reason why we're waiting for validation on that end? Thank you, Mr. Kinga.
If I may, Jesse Kinga, Chairman for the Guam Academy Charter Schools Council. So we recognize Director Burns' statement provided in his letter, and we actually concur with the interpretation that was provided. The solution to the issues, I think, and to answer your question first directly, those vendors are either directly or indirectly related to the provision of law that prohibits any purchases related to the structure or capital improvement for permanent structures. However, it appears that Guahan had already certified that such structures are temporary, and they forward that to the director of the Department of Administration. I think the challenge here was, despite the director actually suggesting a solution, it probably was just a misinterpretation. I'd like to reflect back on 17 GCA subsection 12116D. This provision of law was amended through Public Law 35-29. If I could read it verbatim, it says, notwithstanding any other provision of this chapter, no capital improvement fund shall be awarded to a non-converted public school for the purpose of constructing said school, with the exception of constructing temporary structures that can be removed and reverted to the government of Guam with the approval of the council. And so the school has already established the first threshold, which is their assurances that this is a temporary structure. But I think what was missing and what the council was not made aware of up to this point was the explicit approval by the council. And so if I can offer a solution, we weren't made aware until the Vice Speaker had called for this information session. I think the school was communicating directly with the director, and the director was responding appropriately. We would have been able to solve this if the school had sent to the council instead for approval as that needed step before releasing the allotments. And so, as a suggestion for today to solve the issues of the vendor payment, if we are able to receive such requests for the council to review and take action on, then the approval by the council can be forwarded to the director of the Department of Administration to satisfy this section of law and therefore make payment on the vendors in question.
Is that okay with the board? The
Chair,
council
we
is the
agree.
representative for all the
Yes.
charter schools.
But we're here to work and collaborate with everybody, Madam Chair. And if that is something that we'll be comfortable with that on the review process. I have no issues with that. Anything that would help to get our vendor paid and over-validate everything that we already validate, that will help us, Senator.
Okay.
We would like to be able to get everybody's assistance.
Okay, and then Mr. Burns, your letter made everything sound very complicated. So the way Mr. Kinga explained it, really just the process being rectified and going through the council, and then therefore the council forwarding it to you because they are the validating authority for the charter schools. Does this put things into line so that the vendors can be paid out?
I apologize if I made something sound complicated. I thought I was trying to make it sound simple. I mean, I was simply inviting the charter school to confirm that the provisions of that particular subsection were not being validated. They haven't done that, but Mr. Kenga's approach is a different approach, and if it works, obviously I'd like to see what actually comes to us, but it
Okay.
seems to be a fruitful way of proceeding.
All right. And also, we ensured that the Charter Council was given a separate appropriation and an office space of their own, and to hire full-time employees to assist the council in their work. I haven't had the opportunity to visit Department of Administration and see the space that you have given the council, but is it an equitable space, and do you have personnel that that is up to the tasks that you have to deal with and the standard?
I have to say, first and foremost, our greatest appreciation for the director, the deputy, and the hardworking staff at the department. Recruitment is a long time to get a dedicated body to the Charter School Council, and in lieu of that recruitment time, the director has seen fit to appoint their general accounting supervisor, Grace Adroza, and an accountant one who will be assigned to assisting the schools in reviewing their allotment requests and providing such statements forward. So it seems to be working for us. They've been responding to the schools very timely, and like Director Byrne had stated earlier, a lot of their allotment requests have been paid out within the 10-day time frame. So, I mean, the staff there is just incredible, and the level of support and professionalism, I'd just like to commend him and his department for that.
Thank you, sir. And we are in the process of recruiting that person. As Mr. Kenga says, it takes a while, but I'm hoping that we'll finalize it actually next week.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Director. And so now that we established really what the essential roadblock is, what is the timeline that you will move it to the council for review, for their validation?
Well, on these issues, I think we can get it to them as early as today. We can get it all done. It's all in the whole package.
And are you familiar, because we haven't had a council, right? This is actually a
Yes,
first
yes.
time we've had a full functioning council, right?
And
And,
very good ones.
I'm grateful
right.
to those
Yes.
public servants and Mr.
Yes.
Chair for accepting the nomination for a council, and also to our governor for ensuring that we have a full council. So
Yes.
are you familiar with the process that needs to be done, who the paperwork needs to go to? And
Well, we've done that every so often to
Okay.
make sure that we get all this. So if it's everything,
okay,
then it could even be electronically transferred to them for faster review, and could come back to us, hopefully almost just within some, after good review process. But definitely, the process, the people that we have in the business and finance are very efficient. These people that we have are very efficient, Madam Chair, and I'm so it's anytime. We can get that in a few minutes, and
Okay.
anytime that you want those records
so I know this takes some time,
or
but
request.
Mr. Director and Mr. Chair, is it okay if I just send you a note 15 days from now, a letter following up, and then perhaps holding
Yes.
information hearing maybe 30 days and then seeing if we're able to make some traction. And because I don't want to come to another standstill if there's something in policy or that we're forgoing a process. So would that be okay?
Yes, Vice
Thank
Speaker.
you.
We truly appreciate that, Madam Chair.
Okay, so
Thank
I
you so
think
much.
this has been a very productive, we should have this more often, the eve before Christmas or the eve before New Year, so we find a solution quickly. I want to thank all of you for your hard work and thank you for your openness and collaboration to working together to ensuring that the government does its duty and pays out those vendors that have invested in the government justly, and they remove the clock. So the time is now 15:40. We have exhausted, oh, I'm sorry. Okay. It is now 15:40, and we have exhausted all items on the agenda. Yes. Okay, I will give you 5 minutes. Okay, come, there's a letter that Mr. Robbins would like to comment on. Please speak through the mic, Mr. Robbins, and restate your name.
Tim Roberts, I'm the lawyer for U1. GAC signed a promissory note for $1.35 million. And you have it, I sent it to you, and I don't see that anywhere on this letter.
To what business?
Pardon
Or
me?
what vendor?
U1.
You won $1.35 million. Is there a statement for that?
We, Madam Chair, I am not sure about the real figure. I think that's kind of like overly stated right now. I don't know what comprises that amount of money, but I don't think it's that much. But I could go back to our accounting people and verify the amount and get back to you.
Okay. I do remember that one of the vendors were owed over $1 million,
Yes.
and then there was a promissory note of payment
Yes,
for a certain chunk, and then that you would pay.
certain amount already.
Yes, so,
Part of it is already retired from direct payments, but I really would like to be able to get the right
Amounts.
amount so we can get back to you and then confirm that.
It's in the promissory note. It's $1.35 million plus interest, starting 2 years ago.
I think at this juncture, we would like to get our counsel respond to the attorney, just so they both have all the information intact.
okay.
I think this is not just the right protocol for us to answer any question from the lawyer of the
Okay.
other group. Thank you.
So right now, we have, as an awaiting, look, we're not in the courtroom, okay?
Hmm?
I said, we're not in the courtroom, okay? So
Oh, I know,
you can debate that with the attorneys
Well,
offline.
I have a promissory note for
Okay.
$1.35 million, and
we
I
will
believe
look
Ms.
it up.
Ovalle has signed it.
We will look it up, Mr. Roberts.
You have it in your office, Senator.
Yes.
Okay.
That's why I mentioned I saw it.
Thank you.
And so we will also get more information on that.
Thank you.
But the one that we have awaiting validation is the $243,000 payment to U1 Ludixol. And then there's an additional to U1, which is $24,824. So perhaps we'll discuss that. You can discuss that with your vendor and GACS. We are here to assess what has been the roadblocks for these pending payments. We're not here to,
Just let's hold that.
yes.
Jackie Terlai explained that those are partial payments, and she was hoping to get authority for, at least to get some money into U1's pocket.
Okay.
But the total amount is $1.35 million. And there's a lawsuit going on, and we're going to win.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Roberts.
Thank you, Senator.
I appreciate your presence here. So now that we have exhausted all the items on the agenda, it is now 15:44. I want to thank everyone for coming here on this New Year's Eve day and taking time out of all your preparation and planning. And Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, everyone. God bless. Thank you.